Let us get right into it, Roddy, and we will start with the defending ACC champions, the team that if you ask any of their fans, they were completely screwed out of a college football playoff berth last year. The Florida State Seminoles. We look at their schedule, opening week 0 against Georgia Tech in Dublin. This is a very different team than the one that went 13-0 and won the ACC last year. But Roddy, I got to say, this is the only team in the ACC that I have with a ceiling of national title.
I agree. I think this is the only one that you can imagine them playing in that last game even. I think there are other ACC teams that could make a college football playoff. This Florida State team ceiling is 12-0 in the regular season, winning the ACC championship, getting to the college football playoff with a bye, as they'll be a conference champion and likely be one of the highest 4-seeded conference champions. They get a bye. They play a couple games and be in the national championship game. A lot of it's going to depend on the play of that guy, DJ Uiagalelei. But really, I think it's going to depend on Mike Norvell and his ability to shape that offense in a way that accentuates DJ Uiagalelei's strengths, because he has them. The arm strength, throws a really nice deep ball, his ability to run in short yardage, and get away from some of those, not weaknesses, but the things that aren't quite as strong, like the accuracy in the short to intermediate game. Oregon State did a pretty good job of it by running the ball. We'll see if Florida State's able to do the same thing, but I think this is absolutely a team that could contend for a national championship.
Yeah, and Roydell Williams coming from Alabama as a potential RB1, I think he could have a very big year, especially in the read option with DJ. Another guy coming from Alabama, Malik Benson, the receiver. I think they have some pretty big expectations for him. That's the thing. This roster is so different, Roddy, because you look at Jared Verse, first-round pick. Keon Coleman and Braden Fisk were second-round picks. So they're like, their biggest stars have moved on. But I actually kind of think the Marvin Jones Jr. Patrick Payton tandem might be one of the best edge rushing tandems in the country.
It should be. I mean, when you talk about measurables and length and ability to affect the quarterback, Patrick Payton was really good opposite Jared Verse last year. And so who do you pay more attention to? Last year, all the attention went to Verse. If you switch all that attention to Payton, now Marvin Jones Jr. has a field day. If you look at Marvin Jones Jr., I mean, look at Florida State's track record, taking transfers from the University of Georgia on the defensive line. Jermaine Johnson turns into a first-round pick. Marvin Jones Jr., Florida State legacy, it's going to mean a lot to him. So I really like that defensive front. I really like their secondary. Azareye'h Thomas, it has the ability to be the next big defensive back for Mike Norvell and Florida State. I'm hesitating because I don't want to go so far as to say he reminds me of Jalen Ramsey. But he's built like Jalen Ramsey. He's not Jalen Ramsey yet, but he is built like Jalen Ramsey. So I really like it. The Malik Benson piece too. You hit on it. That is a dynamic that they didn't have consistently last year. Big speed plays from the receiving core. That could add a really interesting dynamic, especially with the strength of DJ Uiagalelei's arm.
Yeah, and Lawrence Toafili in the backfield too. I didn't mention him earlier, but he's returning and ACC MVP of the ACC championship game. Though probably should have been Braden Fisk if they'd waited to vote a couple more minutes. But Toafili is a very good back and one of the players that came through Florida State, recruiting out of high school. And Mike Norvell will joke with you. He's like, I know nobody thinks we can recruit out of high school, but Patrick Payton, Josh Farmer, those are guys that they got out of high school. That they're much better than people realize at that development piece. It's just a lot of these guys, some of these transfers have come and had 4 years of eligibility. So it just feels like they got them out of high school.
And that's the thing. Like, Florida State has been tremendous at development, both in developing high school guys, the guys that you just mentioned, and Azareye'h Thomas is another one who is a development. I count Jordan Travis in that as well. I know he's
absolutely
Louisville in the pre-Mike Norvell era, but development there. But Jared Verse is a multi-year guy. Like, there was development there. You look at guys like Fabian Lovett. There was development there after transferring in from Mississippi State a few years ago. So, and that offensive line, I think most importantly in talking about Florida State, that offensive line returns the bulk of the guys that played last year. A lot of those guys had been transfers, but they were transfers with 2, 3, and 4 years left. And so they've been developed by Alex Atkins and Mike Norvell. he gets a bad rap with the high school stuff, and I think it's unwarranted because he's done a really nice job. Sure, they've missed on a couple, but everybody does. But the development piece on it, they have been phenomenal.
The schedule breaks up nicely as well. They do have some tough games. Obviously, Clemson coming to Florida State, but the week after they go to SMU, that's probably the toughest back-to-back they have, where they go at SMU, then Clemson and Tallahassee. But then they get a little break before they go to Miami, and then there's a couple weeks they play North Carolina in between playing Miami and then going to Notre Dame. So those are the trickiest spots in the schedule. Florida at the end, we'll see where Florida is, but by the end of their own gauntlet that they have to go through before they get to Florida State. But this is a very manageable schedule to go 12-0 or 11-1 and then be in the ACC championship game.
It really is. And because of, with some of the names on there, like a Clemson, a Miami, a Notre Dame, there's certainly the opposite side of it where you could be in a situation where you're sitting there at 9-3. I think that's as bad as they could be. Like, I think that's as bad as it could get for Florida State. And I certainly don't think they lose all three of those games realistically, but all three of those teams could be very good. I think Clemson, I mean, look at the way that Clemson game played out last year, and Clemson should be better than they were a year ago. Miami should be better as well. And that was a close game down the stretch. Miami actually controlled the line of scrimmage for the vast majority of that first half, despite the inability to throw the football at all. And they should be significantly improved. So I agree with you. Like, I think the schedule breaks up well. But those two teams will really sort of determine whether we're talking about a 12-0 team or maybe a 10-2 team down the stretch.
Yeah, and that's the three you mentioned. You know, those are the ones that it's Clemson, it's Miami, and it's Notre Dame, where Florida State is going to be playing a team that may have something close to equal talent.
Yeah,
maybe Florida. Well, but I think Florida State's probably more talented than Florida. So most of these other games, they should be able to out talent people. Which, again, when you think back to what Mike Norvell took over, that's quite a step forward. So they're in a good spot. Roddy, before we get to our next team, I got to tell everybody about Game Time, because if you would like to see the Seminoles this year, like maybe you want to go see them in Dallas playing at SMU at the end of September, you can do it. You can go to Gerald Ford Stadium and see them play against the Mustangs. You could also, see SMU play against its ACC schedule. I'm sure the SMU fans are they got a whole bunch of new road trips. They're like, okay, how do I find tickets? Well, you go to Game Time. And when you go to Game Time, you can look exactly where you'd be sitting in the stadium. You can turn your phone and it'll be like turning your head in your seat. So you know exactly what seat you're getting. With the all-in price, you know exactly how much you're paying. A couple more taps, those tickets are yours. Use the code STAPLES to get $20 off your first purchase. That's code STAPLES, $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But go to Game Time. They have tickets for every single game, even if it's sold out. Even like you want to go see Florida State play at Notre Dame in South Bend, you can do that. Florida State, Miami. Those tickets are actually a pretty good deal right now. You can get really good seats for less than $200 right now for that Florida State Miami game. So head to Game Time, check it out. Any college football, concert, comedy show tickets you want, they got them all. The best tickets. Last minute doesn't matter. They're all there, guaranteed. Go to Game Time. Use the code STAPLES, $20 off your first purchase. Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples on 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.